Good everyone, Organized video. Today we have a review on the ZUT-37, aka the ZUT-ZUT. That's just what we call it because, well, we've got to have a jokey nickname for it. I mean, come on. So, the ZUT-37 is a premium tank and costs 1,000 golden eagles. Do I think it's worth 1,000 golden eagles? No, not in a million years. The problem is with the ZUT is that it's overpriced for what it is. This tank I think would work just fine, being at about 600 golden eagles, or maybe something like 500 compared to the T126 at 5. Well, in fact, no, that's 750 now, isn't it? I think the T126 is 750 anyway. And that's the main issue, is that this tank is overpriced, and I think people just skip it thinking it's an SPAA, it doesn't have a very good turret traverse. What is there to like about it? So as you saw the first impressions, this vehicle is very small, can fit in quite a few areas where you wouldn't expect. And personally, I've had a lot of fun playing this thing. This thing is really, because obviously these last few months in War Thunder for most people have been pretty rough. I mean, we've had pretty rough events. We've had changes that come in that completely ruin the game and stuff, and we've had changes that, well, vehicles, I should really say, that really ruin the game and make it harder. And this vehicle was just a breath of fresh air to me. I mean, it was like the Japsir when I got the Japsir, and obviously I reviewed that. I love the Japsir. But if they nerfed it, but I've certainly had worse. But that's the thing. Like Japsir was a breath of fresh air to me, and this thing was as well. But obviously I can't exactly use the same title twice, so that gives you an idea. I've had to be a bit more creative. So, as mentioned in the first impressions, the ZUT is based off the T70 chassis, which is a solid chassis. I remember it from when I started out playing the game, and it's a nice chassis. I mean, it weighs just a bit under 8 tons, has a 170 horsepower engine, and can get up to 26 miles an hour. Which, to be brutally honest, that's pretty good. It's not the best light tank at this tier, but that's good. That is certainly what I would call good. Now, I personally think they could make a couple of changes to the ZUT to make it a bit more relevant. Now, you can still list it as an anti-aircraft piece, however, I still think this thing should get scouting. Now, to some of you, that may sound a bit dumb, but think about it. It's a light tank chassis vehicle with a terrible turret traverse, so it can't really do its job, although you can shoot down planes, but they have to fly right at you for you to do it. And I just think being at the BR it's at of 2.7, the only real factor it has compared to its other vehicles of this rank, so as you can see below, I've got my 2.7 lineup that I was using to help grind the mark of distinction for this vehicle. And two of these vehicles in this lineup can scout. They can also take a beating, and they can also they can dish out a beating and help their team. The problem is with the ZUT is whilst it is a lot of fun, I've got to take into account its critical flaws. Not being able to scout is one of them, and having lack of gun depression compared to the tanks at this BR is also another issue. The only downside to the gun depression is the fact that the vehicle is small and you can't really work as many ridge lines as you would hope. Having only 3 degrees of gun depression, you're not getting far. But you do get 77 degrees of gun elevation, obviously being an anti-aircraft piece. And the 37, if it hits a plane, it's going to know about it, give or take. So my own personal suggestion when it comes to this vehicle is grind it out in war bonds. This vehicle pops up a lot in war bonds, and obviously Oddballs did a video on it. He had a blast in it. Quite a few people have done videos on it. I think Harry's done a video on this thing, which if he hasn't, Harry, please do a video on ZUT. I'm sure you're gonna love doing it. And that's the thing, like it's just a fun vehicle. This thing is fun. This thing is agile, and it's got a great gun for what it is. So you can have some fun with it. So before we step in, obviously I have gone over the gun in first impressions, but obviously I'm going to cover it again here just briefly. The only shell I fired at this thing was the BT round, the APT ammunition. Comes in clips of 5, and personally, if you get down to around 3 rounds, change your clip. Just fire off the rest of the rounds that you have and change your clip. It will take about 5 seconds to reload on a good crew, and you'll you'll thank me later if you can run the corner and you've only got 3 shells and 3 isn't enough to kill your target. Obviously, the HE round does have decent punch, but I never used it. Same with default, because obviously half of it's AP, half of it's HE. I just don't think it's wise to use these rounds. Oddballs did carry a couple of these, but personally, I don't. The AP round can down planes anyway, and personally, that's how it should be. So before we continue, I'm just going to do a brief overview, because I believe I did it in the first impressions of the armor. The frontal plate's actually pretty reliable against some of the lower tier opponents. So is the lower glacis, because obviously the 32 degrees angle downslope. But as mentioned in the first impressions, this vehicle does receive hull break, which personally I think is a little unfair. But that's just me. I mean, if they want to say that this thing's got less armor than a regular T70, then that's BS for the hull. But hey ho. The side armor is only 15, so if you get shot in the side, chances are it's going through no matter what it is, unless it's a 30 cal. The rear is only 10mm thick, and shall I say, the upper part of the rear is 10mm thick, and the lower part is 25, whilst the turret is 16 all around with a couple of parts that overlap. And being an open-top vehicle, you are vulnerable to strafing. But like I say, this thing is more of a novelty and more of a bit of fun than an actual grinding vehicle. And that's where I think a lot of people judge this thing for. But to me, I like this thing. I really do. I've had a lot of fun in it. Now, the argument of this thing not being able to take down planes is complete crap. It can, you just need them to fly right at you. So the best piece of advice I can do is fire a 37 their way. They might turn around, won't always, and then pump the last four into their face and see how they like it. So let's get into the battle and let's take a look at the ZUT-37. And let's see one of the best. I mean, this wasn't the best battle I had in the tank. The best battle I had was 9 tank kills in it, and to be honest, I don't know how I did it, because there was literally, at one point, there was an M16 that was camping behind a corner. He just let me drive past him, and he just sat there, just staring at my vehicle. I obviously spotted him after realizing he was there, because I heard his engine, and then he just drove on. He just didn't seem to care, and he went to go and cap the point. I came back round and shot him in the face. So we're going to be starting off in this battle going to one of my favourite positions on Frozen Pass, also known as Frozen Peas, Frozen Arse, and yeah, this map's a nice little map. I like it, but it certainly could have its changes done, that's for definite. I mean, there are a few areas of improvement. I mean, this area down here at like G3, I would personally give a little workaround because there's not that much cover for people. And yeah, just personally, I would make some changes to this map myself if I could model for Gaijin, but at the end of the day, that's just the way it is. So obviously being on a T70 hull, you can rush a position very quickly. I tried to get rid of this tree, but obviously the 37 is inadequate for doing that. And I spot the Crusader the Saint, which is the Premium. And that was a one-shot kill there. Then of course the M22 comes out. And again, a one-shot that actually connected. The shell has good characteristics of shrapneling. The problem is with the ZUT-37's gun is that it does struggle against angles. And as you'll notice, the tank does have its versatility with its actual capability. I mean, we're set in a good position right now, and that's the thing, like, we could just park in a position and just utilize what we need to do. But obviously, it's not always going to work, is it? So I'm just going to jump us ahead, because obviously we are in a position to shoot at enemy vehicles. And you'll notice what I did there. What I skipped there was I spotted that Crusader before he even came around the actual corner. And what I did was that I shot the trees, which you can do on this map, and shot him accordingly. That shot right there just disabled the machine gunner and the transmission on that Stuart, and there he goes right now. That's assist number 1. But obviously, in this position, the gun doesn't have the best penetration. It ranges from about 57mm to around 53, and in some cases even 50, which, considering most of the enemy team, that's not bad. But at the same time, that's not exactly going to be hugely beneficial. So in the end, eventually, I decided to move off, which, as you'll imagine, is it's rather annoying because obviously I do have to move one of my favourite positions, but eventually, after a couple of minutes, I do get on the move. So at this point, there was actually a Crusader sat on the side just over there. And obviously he's behind the tree to the left there, which you can see by the red marker. I obviously don't know he's there, but he's being marked. And I'm assuming that he's going to be behind this tree. I think there's a slight server issue right now because this is very bad. I know I've put it to half-time speed. I don't know why I've done that, but that's just me messing up. But as you can tell, Crusader drives off, and well, I just go about my day because, well, the team's not doing particularly great at this point. We're losing we've lost C point, and the A point's just been capped by a Stug. Well, not a Stug, I think it was a Stuart that capped it actually. The reason why I say Stug is because I had a map. Oh, I had this map on this side fighting Axis, and there was a Stug that went to the A point. So that's why I thought of the Stug. So, but obviously with the gun depression not coming in handy here, I'm not exactly going to be in the best position to do so. And with the gun depression being only -3, there's not a lot of positions you can work with. But the gun elevation does allow you to do that. So even if you park it on a hill, you can actually get into a better position to really benefit your team. But obviously I'm being cautious, as you'll notice. That's the one thing about the ZUT-37, because obviously you've only got 2 crew, and being in a 2 crew vehicle means you have to be a lot more careful than what you normally would be. But obviously I'm looking around to try and shoot that SBD Dauntless, and obviously AA roll for this thing is low priority for me, but if I can take a shot at a plane, I'll do it. But obviously Dauntless is coming around, and I'm trying to swing the gun round, but obviously 7.5 degrees a second I think the turret traverse is. It's not great, let's put it that way. But obviously I'm lining up on the plane to try and get some shots. I do score a couple of hits on the guy, and he actually ends up clipping clipping that mountain up there very shortly. I'm not sure why he did, because I didn't really damage the vehicle enough to warrant that. But whatever floats his boat. I mean, that Stuart there was capping the point, and here comes the Dauntless again. He's about to come back round and I'm about to hit him, which is what's going to cause him to crash. There's the hit. His left wing starts acting up, his left flap has actually fallen off, and he tries to make a turn, but he ends up clipping the mountain. Well, that's kill number 1 for aircraft. I mean, I think I got 6 air kills in total in the tank, which isn't bad, but I mean, I wasn't considering using this thing as an AA piece in the first place, but anything that you can get in terms of air kills is always beneficial, so why the hell not? So obviously I'm moving up and I'm trying to get through the rubble, but obviously I don't have enough speed or enough mass to actually get through there, and well, I have to take the long way round. because the enemy team does still have control of 2 caps. We only have 1. We only have Bravo. And it's not really what I'd want. I'd want the team to try and get the caps. Because obviously I've done some decent work in ZUT-37. I mean, it'd be nice if the team went to the caps, which they are currently doing at the moment. And there is actually an enemy T-17 running rampant around here. I just so happened to look to my right, and here he comes. But did you notice how he didn't actually notice my tank? That happens a lot with ZUT-37. It just happens, like, people just ignore this thing. The shot that I fired at that M2A4 actually took out the gunner. So at this point, I take the opportunity of using the chassis that I've got and flanking. This is one thing that you'll have to do against certain opponents in ZUT-37, specifically B1 Biz and B1 Tur. You will have to flank them. And, well, you can do that relatively easily with a light little chassis like this. Kill number 6. I think that's my last tank kill for this match. If I remember rightly, it's either my last tank kill for the match or it's my second to last. But this sort of position that I'm showing you right here is the perfect spot for a ZUT-37, especially if you have the winter camo. At the time of this battle, I did not have the winter camouflage unlocked. I do now. But that would be a perfect position for a ZUT-37. And yeah, I'm calling it that because I can. It's a nickname. So that's just how I want to do it. So obviously I wanted to race towards the B point, but obviously I'm wanting to take a more safer route. So I thought I'll use these buses here as cover, and I'll move up. Bit of bad driving from me here. I don't know why I thought I could get through the church wall, to be honest. But obviously, I'm trying to get into a position to cover the recapture of the B point. Because we do have the C point now. But obviously the T-17 armoured car that was taken out captured the B point. But now obviously we're regaining the cap back. And this is the thing, you'll notice this thing plays a lot of a support role. Normally, I don't tend to like that sort of thing. I like to be on the front lines, being in position, either scouting, taking out enemies at decent ranges, or at least being in a heavy tank and soaking up some shots for the team. But ZUT-37 is certainly a tank that you can do pretty much whatever you like with. You're not going to be able to kill everything at your BR, but to be brutally honest, it's not that huge of a deal. So at this point, I decided to make my way towards the enemy spawn. Now, firstly, I shouldn't have done that because I mean we didn't have the A point to begin with. But we have more planes than them. We have more tanks. I just thought, well, I'll go back up this Panzer IV here, and I'll try and see if there's anything I can do to support the team. Because obviously, we're down to the last few enemies. What else can I get before this game ends? Because we're going to win in the next minute and a half anyway. So I start moving up, and obviously here comes a Potez 631. I score a couple of hits on the Potez. He tries to bomb us, and sort of succeeds. I mean, he does do some damage to my vehicle. But he pulls it into the vertical, and, well, I get another hit on him, and he does a Daytaurus into a tree, giving me another air kill. So that's that. So then at this point, I thought he was going to come back for a revenge kill, so I quickly evacuate the area using my high speed. And I just rush into a position to take up shop and finish off anything that comes our way. But as you can tell by the enemy team, there's nothing left. I mean, there's a Matilda, which is, I think he was near the, like, he was making his way towards the A point. And the M5, I don't know. But there was a Nimrod in the sky, but let's be real, we have an I-15. I don't know what's going to win that argument. But like I say, this tank does come up in war mods a lot, and it certainly is a very capable vehicle just out the box. You just need to know its positioning, its limitations, and what it can and can't pen. And also have a decent lineup, because, well, you're going to need it. But anyway, I'm going to let you guys off. I hope you enjoyed today's video on the ZUT-37, aka the ZUT-37, and I will catch you all on the next one.